Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Sean Moss with Down Payment Resource. And today we are going to talk about the basics of down payment assistance programs, what's available in your market, and where to look inside of your Paragon MLS system to find information about all of the down payment assistance programs available in your market to first-time home buyers, but also potentially to repeat home buyers. So this will be your DPA 101 crash course, if you will. Thank you to the Spokane Association of Realtors for partnering with us to bring this information to both you and your clients. And again, my name is Sean Moss, and today we are going to talk about Down Payment Resource and what we are and what we do, and then the basics of the three most common types of homebuyer assistance programs. And we'll give you sort of a DPA 101 introductory crash course, and we'll talk a little bit about the kinds of programs that are out there in your market. But at Down Payment Resource, we are a national database and a matching engine of all of the over 2,200 homeownership programs across the country and the dozens across the greater Spokane market. Our technology is designed to help agents be the down payment hero to buyers. We are integrated into your Paragon MLS system and into property listing data so that you can see if and when a property is eligible for any of these down payment programs based on its location and price and property type and a few other characteristics. You don't have to do anything to turn on Down Payment Resource, and all of it is free, including a lead generation tool called Down Payment Connect that is part of the package for all Spokane Association of Realtor members. So ultimately, we are here to help you connect home buyers to the down payment help that they need. We are going to discuss loans, grants, tax credits, and other programs to help eligible buyers achieve the down payment faster, cover closing costs, and get into a home sooner than perhaps they otherwise would have or thought they could. Now, across the country, 74% of the homeownership programs we track are some form of down payment or closing cost assistance. We also track affordable first mortgage loans, which typically come from your state housing finance agency in your state. In Washington, that is the Washington State Housing Finance Commission, otherwise known as the Commission. We also track mortgage credit certificates where they are available, and some other kind of outlier programs. But we're going to focus today on DPAs, those affordable first mortgage loans that offer unique benefits like better mortgage insurance pricing, higher LTVs, below market interest rates, and then the tax credits. But while we're here, the majority of these homeownership programs are some form of down payment and closing cost assistance. But we want to clarify, even in the Spokane market, there are many different types of down payment assistance and particularly repayment terms. So yes, there are some programs that are grants. That is a grant, a true gift at closing, doesn't have to be repaid. Some of these down payment assistance programs may have zero or little interest and have a monthly repayment. But there are many, 64% across the country, that have deferred payments, and 43% are forgivable loans. Deferred payments means you get the down payment assistance up front, you don't have a monthly payment, and maybe there's sort of a balloon payment or it's deferred or forgivable down the road. Forgivable means, yes, it is a loan up front, but it may be forgiven incrementally over time, essentially becoming a grant, or forgiven all at once as long as the buyer remains in that home as their primary residence for X number of years, 3, 5, 7, 10, depends on the program. But the point there is to illustrate that we use the term down payment assistance broadly. That encompasses a number of different types of homebuyer assistance programs and repayment terms. Now, where are these programs? We hear often our market is high cost, our market is rapid appreciation, our market is too rural, our market is this or that. There is not a county in the country that doesn't have some form of down payment assistance, in part because every state has a state housing finance agency. We already pointed out yours, the Washington State Housing Finance Commission. Their programs are available statewide. They've done a lot of work in the last couple of years, including this year, to accommodate higher income limits and higher purchase price limits. We'll talk about that here in a moment as well, relative to your market in Spokane. But these programs are everywhere, including in your market by the dozens. Now, who offers these programs? Of course, the State Housing Finance Agency, but there are sometimes local housing finance agencies or cities and counties, municipalities that offer some form of down payment help. Employers may occasionally offer down payment assistance to attract or retain talent. Nonprofits all over the country and even in your market offer various homebuyer assistance programs. And then there are housing authorities, CDFIs, the Federal Home Loan Bank Network, community land trusts, and more, all of whom are at times offering down payment help, closing cost help, or other affordable homeownership programs. What we do is track and monitor all of those programs to make sure that when you are seeing down payment assistance information in your MLS, that you are seeing current up-to-date information about those programs. Now, what's going on with DPAs broadly? And then we're going to look at the greater Spokane market. Down payment assistance originations, or the usage of down payment assistance, has declined a little bit this year after 2 record years, but the number of available programs has increased for the last 3 straight quarters. That means there are more and more down payment assistance programs hitting the market. And in addition to that, demand for down payment assistance is through the roof. Down payment assistance providers are increasing the assistance amounts that they can offer to a buyer. They are increasing income limits. They're increasing purchase price limits to continue to try to accommodate to the market and to help more home buyers. And currently, 84% of all down payment assistance programs across the country are funded and available. We'll look at that in your market here next. The point of this is to say down payment assistance is still available. It is not going away. And in fact, there is more attention on affordability issues and more programs coming to market to assist with those issues. Now, what is available in Spokane? There are 37 different programs from various agencies. In fact, from 22 different agencies, 34 of them were funded at our last count. Income limits have increased. In fact, if you were on a webinar with us when we launched in Spokane several months ago, earlier this year, income limits are up to $160,000. Purchase price limits can go up to $647,000. That's increased already this year. The down payment assistance can range from $5,000 to an eligible buyer or household up to $70,000. This is all in your market. This is specific to Spokane. So $5,000 to $70,000 and an average of about $18,000 or $19,000. Now that can vary by program, and some programs don't offer a specific dollar amount, but rather a percentage of the sales price or a percentage of the total loan amount. That might be how they calculate assistance. So for those programs, it can be hard to get an average, but it would depend on purchase price essentially. In your market, in Spokane, as of yesterday, 74% of Spokane Association of Realtors listings are eligible for one or likely many down payment assistance programs. And as such, we'll have a down payment button in Paragon on agent and client views. And I will take a moment at the end to show you what this looks like in Paragon as well as a few screenshots. So that's what's available in your market. Yes, there are programs. There are increasingly flexible income and purchase price limits. A significant portion of your active inventory right now today is eligible for these programs, meaning that a buyer interested in that property will see a button like this, the $sign with the check mark, will see that there is down payment help for that property and might be able to pursue down payment assistance because for some of these programs, the income and purchase price limits are flexible, or there may not even be income or purchase price limits. So bearing that in mind, we know that every market is different. Every market has its own nuances, but there is help in Spokane. These programs are, however, only for owner-occupant buyers. So this is not for the purchase of rental homes, vacation properties, investment properties, and so forth. It must be for the primary residence. There is also a minimum buyer investment from the buyer. That can be cash. It can be $500, $1,000, 1% of price. That's going to vary by program. But part of that investment on behalf of the buyer is the completion of a homebuyer education class. Most of these down payment assistance programs do require that the buyer complete a home buyer education course, which is typically 6 to 8 hours of HUD certified content that teaches them not just about the home buying journey, but also about the obligations and pitfalls, quite honestly, of long-term successful home ownership. So not only do we want to help them get into the home, but stay in the home. And then, of course, lastly, these programs are not for cash buyers, right? We're not talking about cash buyers here. So since they're financing their property, anybody using down payment assistance must also qualify for a first mortgage. So those are sort of universal program requirements, but we want to break down the differences between down payment assistance and affordable first mortgage programs and mortgage credit certificates where they are available. So we'll focus mostly on down payment assistance, but give you a little bit of intel about the other couple types of homeownership assistance here. So down payment assistance is the most common type of homeownership program. We already saw that when we looked at some of the data earlier. So breaking that down, let's look at how they're funded, the differences in repayment terms, what you get, and common eligibility criteria. So we kind of started into this earlier. There are several different types of down payment assistance, but to recap, grants, which you see at the top here, a grant is a gift. It's a true gift, no loan, no lien. It's a gift at closing, does not have to be repaid. And then there are repayable seconds. That is a down payment assistance loan. So it's a second mortgage, right? You get your primary mortgage and the down payment assistance comes as a second mortgage that may have a 0% or a low interest rate and has a monthly repayment term. Could be a 5-year loan, it could be a 30-year loan. That's going to vary. But then you also have some down payment assistance programs that are silent seconds, or the monthly payment is deferred. So you still get the loan for down payment help at closing, and then you don't have to make monthly payments on that loan. They're typically 0 interest. And then in 5, 10, 30 years, it depends on the program, it may come due. Or the last scenario is it may be forgivable over time. So it's not a grant at closing, it is a second mortgage, but it could be forgiven at, say, 10% per year for 10 years. So every year they live in the home, 10% of that debt is forgiven. That would be a common scenario. Or 20% per year over 5 years. And each year they live in the home, 20% of the original down payment assistance amount is forgiven. So it sort of becomes a grant over time. Those are the 4 kind of most common types of repayment terms. But of course, down payment assistance, just stepping back more broadly, is the most common type of home buyer program, one of those 4 types of repayment terms, right? They are typically nonprofit or government funded. At least that's what we track and monitor. Sometimes they can be provided by employers and can offer several to tens of thousands of dollars. And as we saw in Spokane, $5,000 to $70,000. So what can the funds be used for? Obviously the down payment, often the closing costs, sometimes prepaid expenses, and then occasionally we'll see a program which allows the down payment funds to be used for property repairs. Now those are not as common or prevalent as just pure down payment help or closing cost help. But those are the common or eligible uses for down payment assistance programs. Now, we do want to address a myth here. These programs are not only for first-time homebuyers. There are, even in your market, programs that do not have a first-time homebuyer requirement. That's important because that expands the eligible audience for these programs, or expands the potential pipeline of renters and even current owners that you might be able to help or serve with a down payment assistance program. And also remember that for the purpose of down payment assistance, a first-time homebuyer is simply someone who has not owned a home in the last 3 years. So some of these programs, well, all of them basically can be used for a first-time homebuyer, but sometimes they can be used for repeat buyers or even current owners who are selling the property they live in now and moving to a new primary residence. So you're a first-time home buyer if you haven't owned in the last 3 years, and first-time home buyer is not a universal requirement of all down payment assistance programs. There are some that will allow you to use their program if you have currently or recently owned. So what are some common terms we might hear? We talked about a grant. A grant is a true gift at closing. We talked about forgivable and deferred payments, or forgivable or deferred down payment assistance programs. The affordability period is the period over which those payments might be deferred or over which that loan might be forgiven, that down payment assistance second lien or subordinate loan. You might hear them called DPAs or DAPs, DAP, down payment assistance program. They're all sort of synonymous terms, but just know that underlying that broad term are these unique nuances and characteristics that will differ by program. But if it's not a grant, it is a second mortgage or a second lien or a subordinate loan. So you might hear those terms as well. Now, what are some of the basic eligibility requirements for these programs? There are income limits. Most programs have income limits, although some do not. Most programs have purchase price limits, although again, some do not. They are always market adjusted to reflect the median incomes and the median purchase prices or better in a given market. So in Spokane, for example, the purchase price limits are going to be a lot higher than, let's say markets in the Southeast, for example. So we do see income and purchase price limits on most programs, up to $160,000 in income in your market. That doesn't mean every program goes that high, but that's a statewide income limit that we conservatively pulled from some of your state programs. And purchase price limits, while if there are any, they can be flexible. There are some programs that may not have purchase price limits, but then of course you're bounded by conventional conforming loan limits or FHA loan limits because you've got the limit on the loan amount you can get. Nonetheless, sales price limits in your market easily go up to 647, if not better. Now, location is an important factor, and that's actually what we are doing inside Paragon. We are identifying or flagging eligible listings with a down payment button based on location and price of the listing and determining which or how many different down payment assistance programs a buyer might have access to if they were interested in that property at that location, at that price. So we'll show you how that looks and how that works here in a few minutes. But remember too, that these buyers are financing. So their FICO is going to matter. They've got to qualify for a first mortgage. Typically, the lowest FICO scores we'll see on down payment assistance programs are 620 to 640. Not too many down payment assistance programs will accept a FICO below that. And some might want to see a 660 or even a 680. And then of course, home ownership history. We already talked about the first time homebuyer requirement and that it's not universal across down payment assistance programs. But we do of course have to look at home ownership history and which programs are still available if someone has recently owned. Military service and profession can open up additional or unique opportunities that are not necessarily available to the general public. Not in every market, not all the time, and not for every profession. But as those programs come about, we track and monitor them as well, and we can surface those for you and your clients. So what are some of the advantages of down payment assistance? And we'll try to think of this in the context of your own market as well. Lowering loan to value, that's the obvious one, right? Buyer goes to get a mortgage. How much of a down payment do you have, and what percent of the purchase price does that represent? That's what defines and determines which first mortgage options are available to them. But with the down payment assistance program, you can decrease that loan to value, which can open up the door for better first mortgage financing, better interest rates, lower mortgage insurance premiums, and all these other advantages down the page here that start to compound. So as you put down a bigger down payment, even if you're doing so by using a down payment assistance program, you are lowering your debt to income ratios, your qualifying ratios, right? Because you're lowering the payment on that first mortgage. You are potentially improving mortgage insurance pricing. If you can use conventional financing instead of FHA, then you don't have the upfront mortgage insurance premium. You have more affordable monthly mortgage insurance on conventional first mortgages. All of this is, of course, lowering your monthly payments. It's all helping to supplement cash to close. So maybe you don't need to use all of the cash, all of your liquidity to provide a down payment and cover closing costs. You can leverage a down payment assistance program to help with that, which leaves you more liquid when you get into the home. retaining a little bit of savings to help plan and budget and cover the things that come with home ownership, especially for a new buyer. And of course, all of that is holding income the same, right? We haven't changed income. We've just used the down payment assistance program to change the loan. So we're able to increase the purchasing power of that borrower or that buyer or their household based on their income. So those are some of the maybe less obvious or underappreciated advantages of a down payment assistance program, or at the very least, that sort of illustrates some of the benefits that compound or come from lowering the loan to value with a down payment assistance program. Now, we mentioned earlier that homebuyer education is often required. Typically, that is 6 to 8 hours of HUD certified content. Most down payment assistance providers these days offer online options to complete that class, which gives your buyer some flexibility, gives them the ability to complete that class sooner. And we would recommend, by the way, that if you've got renters out there that you think are credit and income qualified, but they need some help with cash to close, with the down payment and the closing costs, have them take a homebuyer education class. That's going to qualify them for various down payment assistance programs. We tell you where to go for the class, and we also tell you where to go to find lenders that participate in these programs when you click on down payment resource inside of Paragon. We'll show you that here shortly. But these classes teach them, as I mentioned earlier, not just how to prepare for the home buying process, but how to plan to be a successful long-term home owner. So we are big proponents and fans of these classes. And we recommend that before you go get pre-qualified, certainly before you go look for homes to sign a contract on, that buyers take one of these classes, especially first-time buyers, and let them learn a little bit about the process and become better clients for you. So that was all the down payment assistance program. Now, I do want to walk briefly through the affordable first mortgage, which is another kind of benefit or program that we track. And this isn't just your regular, conventional Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac loan. This isn't your FHA loan, your VA loan, your USDA loan. These are unique programs typically only available through your state housing finance agency that offer a number of features or benefits. For example, reduced interest rates, so below market interest rates on some of their programs. Expanded first mortgage options that can reduce mortgage insurance costs and offer higher loan to values, and often can be combined with down payment assistance programs, both from the state agency as well as potentially other local, municipal, or nonprofit DPA providers. And for those state agencies that have a mortgage credit certificate, they can be combined as well. So the obvious advantages of one of these programs would be, as compared to a regular first mortgage, reduced buying costs, potentially lower monthly payments, increased purchasing power. Again, because we're not changing the income of the buyer, we're just changing other parts of the scenario that make it more affordable for them and thus increase the purchasing power of their existing income. And then all of this is designed to help expedite home ownership for those that maybe didn't realize that it was within reach or within grasp. And part of what we want to help you do is have those conversations about how close they might be to home ownership if they knew about these programs and if they were aware of the opportunities out there to cover down payment, to cover closing costs, to present a more affordable home buying scenario or loan scenario. This is not, by the way, to make you loan officers or to set the expectation that you have to be a loan officer in order to be a good realtor. We can connect you with the loan officers that offer these programs. Many of you might already work with loan officers that offer these programs. Now, lastly, I want to talk to you about mortgage credit certificates. These are tax credits. It is a federal income tax credit, not a tax deduction. So this is not at closing down payment assistance, right? This is an annual tax benefit that you utilize when you file your federal income tax every year. It offers life of loan value, so it's good every year for the life of that mortgage, so long as you keep the mortgage that you got the mortgage credit certificate with. If you refinance, maybe you can keep the mortgage credit certificate, maybe you lose it, depends on the MCC. And there aren't a lot of these out there in every market, and they typically come from the state. But when there is one available and your state has off and on had mortgage credit certificates for a long time, They help offset mortgage interest cost, and you can even still deduct the remaining mortgage interest paid after you've taken the tax credit. The benefits are reduced income tax liability, potentially increased qualifying income, because some mortgage credit certificate providers will allow you to take the value of the tax credit and annualize that as additional income throughout the year. And some mortgage credit certificate providers will let you reissue that certificate through a refinance and attach it to the new mortgage. So basically how this works is, on the first mortgage, you get a down payment, or I'm sorry, you get a mortgage credit certificate. Let's assume some round numbers here just to illustrate how one of these works. You get a $200,000 home at 4% interest. That's $8,000 in interest paid in the first year, right? So let's say the mortgage credit certificate allows you to claim 25% of that mortgage interest as a tax credit. That's a $2,000 tax credit. The rest of the $6,000 that the buyer paid in interest that year gets to be claimed as an itemized mortgage interest deduction if they itemize. So that's basically how it works. I don't want to get into any more complicated math than that, but that's a mortgage credit certificate. They are available in a number of states, but they've been a little more fluid lately than they were up until the last 2 years or so. Now, let's look at some unique features and benefits or other opportunities across some of these homeownership programs. Some programs have unique benefits or enhanced benefits in targeted areas. Those areas are typically targeted because they are higher foreclosure rates, in need of more owner occupancy. There could be a number of reasons. But in targeted areas, you will often not have a first-time homebuyer requirement, even if that program would otherwise stipulate that outside of targeted areas. You often may see more down payment assistance money, higher income limits, higher sales price limits, but they're going to be within specific locations. For example, specific census tracts or zip codes, maybe a whole city, sometimes a whole county. It depends on the program. But where there are targeted areas, you may see enhanced benefits to the buyer if they are buying a home within that targeted area or zone. Some professions, or there may be additional or unique programs for some professions. For example, educators, law enforcement, first responders, healthcare workers, municipal employees. And now this isn't all the time in every market everywhere, but where these programs exist, we track and monitor them, and we produce them when relevant for clients of yours that might work in one of these professions for whom there could be additional assistance. And then those who have served or are actively serving in the military may often find that they can have the first-time homebuyer requirement waived for many of these programs. They can combine them with a VA loan, not that you have to, but you can. And that gives them increased equity out of the gate, or helps cover closing costs. So a common scenario or question that we get is, well, you don't have to have a down payment on a VA loan, so why would you use down payment assistance? Great point. But you do have to cover closing costs and equity in that home out of the gate. That would be a great way of saying thank you for your service. So those are some other scenarios where you may see additional opportunities based on the characteristics of your client or their household. So how do you access down payment information? That's what we are doing with the Spokane Association of Realtors. Everything you're seeing here is free to you. It is part of our partnership with the Spokane Association of Realtors. So we want to show you how to access. Look for these buttons. When you see one of these buttons on listings in Paragon, or we have graphics libraries you can use outside of Paragon with the lead generation tool that we give you, that tells you that the property is eligible for some number of programs, and I'll show you how to click that in Paragon. The lead generation tool that I've mentioned several times is called Down Payment Connect. Every Spokane Association member has a free Down Payment Connect landing page, unique to you. You can drive unlimited traffic to it, gain unlimited leads from it. So you're not buying leads. You're using this landing page where consumers come search for down payment help where they want to buy a home. And it lets you start that conversation by letting that potential home buyer or aspiring home buyer, letting them know that these programs exist and then showing them a path to find the programs that might be available where they want to buy. So you're essentially letting them search for down payment assistance themselves, but you're not giving away a lot of information. Rather, they have to go through a contact form, reach out to you, and start that conversation. So we'll show you how that works. But basically, the buyer completes a program search. They go to a contact form that generates a lead to you and only you, which enables you to tap into aspiring home buyers, growth markets, get creative with your digital marketing on web, on social media, and email. And then you also get the details of all the programs in your market when you get a lead, or all the programs that buyer found. So you're not paying for leads. You are generating your own leads in a creative new way with a unique tool that is free for all Spokane Association of Realtors members. I'll show you how to get your Down Payment Connect page here in a moment as well. So who gets these leads? Only you. They are yours and yours alone. Nobody else is copied. They're not sold or resold elsewhere. This is your tool, and part of our arrangement with the Spokane Association of Realtors is that all of you have access to Down Payment Connect, and the leads go to you and only you. We also encourage you to join the Down Payment Insiders Facebook group. There are real estate agents and loan officers and homeownership counselors and DPA providers from all over the country in markets, urban and rural, high cost and low cost, that are sharing, stories, working with down payment assistance programs, providers, lenders that offer them, marketing successes, challenges they faced, obstacles they faced, and how they overcame them when working with these programs or the buyers using them. So we encourage you to listen in or to share your story and educate. You can also network there. Real estate agents and loan officers are constantly connecting in the Down Payment Insiders Facebook group, in particular because we know that you as real estate agents are looking for loan officers that offer these programs, that participate in down payment assistance programs, that are good at them, and that want your first-time home buyer business. So we encourage you to join that group as well. With that, I actually want to hop out here and I want to show you how Down Payment Resource looks and works in Paragon. So when you log in to your dashboard, DPR, that is us, that's Down Payment Resource. That is where you go to access Down Payment Connect, that lead generation tool. So I'm going to click on DPR here, and we're going to go ahead and look at the Down Payment Resource dashboard. The first thing here is your free Down Payment Connect lead gen page. Add it to your website, put it in the website navigation, add it to your email signature, post it on social media, do all of the above. And we have a whole separate webinar dedicated to showing you some creative, fun examples of how your peers around the country are using that tool to reach and engage with new buyers, aspiring buyers. But your link is right here. Now, this is mine. Yours will end with your first name _ last name. This is just a little demo version here, but that link will be waiting for you there. That is the consumer-facing page where they can search for down payment help, see how many programs are out there, but fill out a contact form to connect with you before learning any more about those programs. So it's a door opener. It's a conversation starter. It's a way for you to educate them about the fact that these programs exist, but also to give them a path to find the programs and the help that's out there for them where they want to buy, and puts you in a position of being the hero for putting solutions out there to the problem that they most likely think they face, which is coming up with a down payment, right? So grab your link, put it out there, have fun with it. And if you need support, we've got marketing resources here that show you, or that gives you rather, graphics. So we've got all kinds of graphics here. You've seen some of these already. We've got all kinds of graphics formatted for various social media platforms, but you can use these anywhere and everywhere you want. There's some really cool stuff in here from a graphics perspective. We also have customizable flyers that you can use. So if you want to use those as takeaways or use them in digital marketing, you can download whichever one is your favorite. There are many different options here in both English and Spanish. Download one. The bottom right quadrant is editable. So you can, oops, zoomed in too far there. The bottom right quadrant is editable. So you could add your Down Payment Connect URL. You could add your contact information and so forth. And then there's webinars, video tutorials, that Facebook group that I talked about, the Down Payment Insiders. All of that is from this page. And I got here from your MLS dashboard. So you log into the MLS dashboard, click on DPR, Down Payment Resource. That's going to take you here. And this is your Down Payment Resource dashboard. There's your Down Payment Connect link. You've got all these marketing resources. And there are some other tools here too that we get into in one of the other webinars. But if you just want to search for programs in your market, or you just want to see what's available across Washington, click on search programs by name, and you've got all kinds of information here. You can scroll through all these different programs. You can look at the program details. There's a lot of information about these programs if you want to kind of dig in deeper, but you don't have to, because here's what we do inside Paragon. So I've just done a search here for some listings, and as we scroll through and we go to that action icon, the plug here, I'm going to click on that, and you will see Down Payment Resource only if that listing is eligible for at least one, if not more or many programs. So typically you're going to see, 5, 7, 9 programs, more than one. However, this button will not be here in the actions menu if that listing is not an eligible property type, or if it is too expensive. But again, remember, 74% of Spokane Association listings right now, as of yesterday, are eligible for some of these programs, if not many. So a lot of your inventory is in fact eligible for these programs. And I'll just do this from a different listing here just to show you. You do not have to input anything in order for Down Payment Resource to show up. We are integrated into Paragon. So we get listings nightly, we update new or edited listings, and this down payment button shows up as soon as we process that listing and determine whether it is eligible for any programs. So it's not a listing input field. You don't have to do anything for this to show up. And when you click that button, so I'll do that now, it tells you how many programs for how many dollars are available for that property. So it is listing specific, right? You can scroll down here if you want to send a record to yourself, if you've got a loan officer, or maybe even the buyer that you want to send this to. You can use the email button here, fire off this list of programs and say, hey, by the way, if it's to the buyer, I found a property that you might like. I'm going to send it to you, but here are some down payment assistance programs that may be available. Let's get together and talk about next steps. Or maybe you want to send this to your loan officer and say, hey, I've got a client coming in. They're starting to think more seriously about buying a home. We want to go ahead and get them pre-qualified. Can you take a look at these down payment programs and let's figure out how we can get them into a home? So your loan officer can help create a buyer for you. So then you can, of course, go down the list. The DPA programs are first. You'll see your state agency first and any other opportunities below that. So I mentioned earlier, if you want to help the buyer take a class, or if you need to find a loan officer that offers these programs, as I scroll here, you see that next steps button on every program. Click on that. And the first thing we tell you is who the participating lenders are. These are not our partners. These are the lenders that have chosen to participate in that program and or have been approved by the program provider. And we are taking you to the program provider's website. So that's your state housing finance agency. This is their published list of lenders who offer their program, who are approved to do so. So if you want to find a participating lender, that's a great place to go. Or ask your broker, ask your peers, who have they worked with that offers down payment assistance programs and does them well. The second thing we show you is how to take the homebuyer education class if it's required. And then you've got links to additional details and contact information for the program provider, and that is for every program down the list. So you've got a few more options here. You've got a next steps button for every one of these programs, and all of these programs are available for that property because it's all property specific when we go back to Paragon. Or now what if I open up the listing detail? We've got that same down payment button here on the listing detail, And if I click that, same thing, it's going to take me to the list of programs available for that property. How many dollars might they get? Each program with the next steps button so you can dig in further, and the ability to send that off to a buyer, to yourself, to your lender, and so forth. And then, of course, this is in the client views as well. So we're looking at your agent view, but look for that down payment button. And when you click it, we simply tell you which programs are out there. So back to the slides here, and I'll wrap this up. So join the Down Payment Insiders Facebook group. The URL is at the bottom there. Great place to network, to learn, to share stories about working with these programs. I'll leave you with a case study. Amber was a new agent in Florida. She found that her peers, who were her first clients, didn't know a lot about down payment requirements and certainly didn't know about down payment assistance programs. So she was somewhat frustrated by that lack of knowledge among her potential clients, took it upon herself to learn about a couple of down payment assistance programs, partnered up with a lender who knew them and did them well, and she built her business that way. And then remember too, that DPA customers become customers for life. Nobody who got down payment assistance to get into their first home is going to forget that experience, and they're going to send referral business your way. I would also tell you, in our Down Payment Connect webinar, where we talk through creative use cases for that tool, one of our favorite examples of marketing down payment assistance programs is by telling the story of a client that you recently helped with down payment assistance. So if that's an opportunity for you, if you've got such clients, tell that story to your peers or to their peers on social media. Tell that to your prospect audience in an email, and let them know what you were able to do for one of their aspiring homebuyer peers. That resonates with that aspiring homebuyer audience, and it's a great way to engage them. So with that, I'll see if we have any questions here. If you have any further questions after the event, you can reach out to us at info@downpaymentresource.com. So if you've got any questions, throw them real quick in the Zoom Q&A or the Zoom chat, and happy to take a few here as we go. I do see Jeffrey asked, so DPAs can be stacked on one another. Yes, you can get more than one down payment assistance program. However, it's going to depend on which programs, because not every program can be layered with every other one. But a common scenario, for example, might be you use the State Housing Finance Agency and their down payment assistance program, and maybe tack on an additional, nonprofit or city program or something like that. So it is possible. You also have to remember that the loan officer is going to have to process and underwrite all of them and ensure that the buyer qualifies for the most restrictive requirements. So, there is some complexity there, but you can layer down payment assistance programs in some cases. So I don't see any other questions. With that, we'll wrap it up here. Thank you for joining us today. Go grab Down Payment Connect and click on the down payment button inside Paragon. If you have any other questions, reach out to us at info@downpaymentresource.com. Thank you all. Have a great week.